Hello, thanks for looking on this video. Criminal justice system's in crisis. It's been mismanaged for the last 40 odd years, really. Over the last 40 years, our prison population has grown and grown and grown. As a nation, we've become more punitive, lesser offenders are being sent to prison. We haven't focused enough on stopping people offending, tackling our drug addictions, dealing with mental health issues properly. Many mental health people are in crisis in the community and should be safely put away in a hospital, but they're committing crimes, serious crimes, some of them. So they're really serious worries. And this prison population has grown and grown, and we can't keep up with building enough prisons. So what's happened is serious offenders are now being released early, which is a lot of public concern about this. The other thing is that the government are bringing in September is a new community order that's heavily dependent on a tagging system. So the idea is to reduce the prison population by imposing these curfew monitoring, these tags on people, and they can be monitored not to go to certain places, or they have to remain at home at certain hours and so on. In theory, I think it's an excellent idea, but there's a major problem. There's a major problem in that the National Audit Office have recently undertaken an inspection of the tagging system in July 2026, and the results of this audit are very concerning indeed. And they so bad that they're saying that the introduction of the tagging system should be stalled for a while and reevaluated and reset, really. I actually don't think this is enough, and I would actually prefer for the tagging company to be taken over and taken back into public service. That public servants should be running it, not a private company, in my opinion. And it should even be brought under the auspices of probation or indeed the police. And I think that would solve a lot of problems, because there's a problem of communicating within the different agencies. And I think this is a major flaw of the system. Now, what they've actually said is that that the system is not running as intended, and it's causing protection risks, and that they monitored cases, and 8,900 active cases lacked proper tags. That's horrendous, isn't it? As of March 2026. And they said, the Audit Office said, that severe probation staff shortages threaten upcoming expansions intended to ease prison capacity. So that too many cases were being unmonitored, and there were installation delays, and this is really worrying. Only 62% of the adult tag requests between January and April 2026 were successfully installed within the standard 2 attempts. So that means 48% went, which is nearly half, and that's just not acceptable, is it? And the breaches, tracking, weaknesses, only 10% to 50% of system alerts led to formal breach notifications to the police and probation, which is just not acceptable again. Now, I think as a society, we need a major rethink around criminal justice. And I think, the public actually have let the politicians get away with mismanaging it all. And it's through our own fault of not scrutinising what the politicians have been doing. Because to be honest, they've mismanaged the courts, they mismanaged the prisons, they mismanaged the police, and they mismanaged probation. Probation has been on its knees through this mismanagement. And really, as a society, rather than just condemning people and punishing them, we need to be looking at the causes of crime, stopping our young people becoming criminals. We need to be tackling our drug issues urgently. We need to be tackling mental health issues. People with mental health problems that are serious shouldn't be roaming around the community offending. They should be safely away, looked after in hospital if appropriate. Yeah. Now, simple things like when I was a probation officer, I noted that many people became offenders through problems at school. Now, one area that I noticed was the transition from primary school to secondary school. If that went wrong and the kid dropped out of school, there was a very high likelihood that eventually they would become an offender when they become an adult, and through dropping out and mixing with the wrong people. Now, that to me is quite a simple fix, isn't it? That's not too expensive. But we've got it all wrong. We're just building more prisons, very expensive. And what make matters worse, a lot of them are public companies and some of them are owned by the French. It's bonkers. But as a society, we need to become more caring towards each other. The gap between rich and poor has grown over the years in the UK. France is tighter, and I think the gig economy doesn't help. I think employees have become numbers and they're not cared about, they're not trained properly. And all these things, in my opinion, heighten the risk to crime. But the big accelerator to crime, from my perspective, are illicit drugs and mental health issues. But basically also how people are parented and how they grow up. And the ones that drop out of school are at very high risk of offending. And I think to our shame and detriment, many children have been dropping out of school in the UK in recent years. And I don't think anybody's got a firm figure on it. There's no audit on how many children are not attending school. I don't think people know in this country. And that for me is shameful. Anyway, finally, our prisons and probation service need to be enabled to try and rehabilitate people rather than just contain them. We need much more focus on rehabilitating people rather than just letting them become worse offenders all the time. Anyway, so, let's focus more on stopping people becoming offenders. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and all the very best to you. Bye-bye.